So let's talk about how a city was shattered. We're going to deconstruct how a long, slow chain of small failures, of ignored warnings, and just years of negligence all came together to create one of the largest and most devastating non-nuclear explosions in human history. And that's really the question at the heart of all this, isn't it? This whole story doesn't start with some evil plan. It starts with a welder doing a routine repair job, and it reveals how a ticking time bomb was just left out in the open, right in the heart of a bustling city, for 7 long years.
To really understand the scale of this failure, we have to start at the end. Let's go to Beirut, Lebanon, on August 4th, 2020. It started as a totally normal afternoon, but in just a few minutes, the city and hundreds of thousands of lives were changed forever.
Just look at how fast this all happened. At 5:45 p.m., welders are doing a simple repair. Sparks from their work most likely set something flammable on fire. 10 minutes later, a fire crew is already on the scene. You can even hear their final radio calls saying something is very wrong. The fire is huge and making these weird crackling sounds. Then, at 6:07, there's a smaller blast. You can see fireworks shooting into the sky. But just 60 seconds later, at 6:08 p.m., the world comes apart. That second explosion, the one that leveled the port, had the force of 1,500 tons of TNT. Now, to try and wrap your head around that number, it's about 10% of the power of the atomic bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. An almost unimaginable force, all coming from one single warehouse. The physics of it are just mind-boggling. The shockwave tore through Beirut faster than the speed of sound. It blew out windows at the airport, which was 8 kilometers away. It was felt on the island of Cyprus, 200 kilometers across the sea. The United States Geological Survey actually registered it as a 3.3 magnitude earthquake. But beyond the physics, the human cost was just immediate and immense. 218 people lost their lives. More than 7,000 were injured, flooding hospitals that were themselves damaged by the blast. And in a single instant, 300,000 people, that's 12% of the city's entire population, were made homeless. The city was in ruins. So what on earth could cause this kind of destruction? It wasn't a conventional bomb. It was just industrial material, abandoned. And to understand how it got there, we have to rewind the clock. We're going back 7 years, to 2013. And the story starts here, with this ship, the MV Rosas. It was sailing from Georgia to Mozambique, carrying a massive shipment of industrial chemicals. It was never ever supposed to stop in Beirut. And that cargo? It was ammonium nitrate. Now, on its own, this stuff is used everywhere. It's in fertilizer for farms, it's used as an explosive for mining. But the danger is all in how you store it. Over time, especially in the wrong conditions, it starts to break down, it gets contaminated, and it basically turns into a massively powerful, unstable explosive.
And this is the chain of seemingly small events that left that deadly cargo stranded. The ship had some technical problems, so it had to make an unscheduled stop. The owner, who was in financial trouble, just walked away, abandoned the ship, the cargo, the crew, refused to pay the port fees. So, in 2014, the authorities in Lebanon seized the ship, and to be safe, they moved its 2,750-ton cargo off the rusty, decaying vessel and put it into Hangar 12. And there it sat.
And that brings us to the most infuriating part of this story, the 7 years between 2014 and 2020. This was not a forgotten problem. The danger was known, it was documented, and it was repeatedly flagged to the very highest levels of government.
I mean, just look at this. This isn't hindsight. This is a direct quote from an official email sent back in 2014, the same year the chemical was moved into the hangar. Port officials knew exactly what they were dealing with. They called it an extreme danger and begged a judge to have it removed immediately. They got no reply.
And it wasn't just one email. Over the next 6 years, port and customs officials sent at least half a dozen letters to the judiciary, pleading for someone to do something. They offered simple, logical solutions. Send it back, sell it to a local company that knew how to handle it, or just give it to the army. Every single proposal was either ignored or just got lost in a sea of bureaucratic red tape.
Okay, so there are incredibly strict rules for storing ammonium nitrate. And then there's what was happening in Hangar 12. Instead of a climate-controlled facility, it was just sitting in decaying bags. Instead of being isolated, it was piled right next to fireworks, kerosene, and barrels of acid. The building had faulty wiring, no sprinklers, not even smoke alarms. It wasn't just a disaster waiting to happen, it was the perfect environment for a catastrophe. So after the explosion, as the city mourned, that grief very quickly turned to outrage. The public demanded accountability. But the quest for justice? Well, it became a tragic story all on its own, and it revealed the very same systemic rot that allowed the disaster to happen in the first place.
The investigation almost immediately slammed into a brick wall of resistance. The main problems were political. Powerful figures interfered directly, government ministers started claiming they had legal immunity, and endless conflicts within the judiciary just brought the whole process to a grinding halt time and time again.
The first judge on the case, Fadi Sowan, was actually removed from his job right after he tried to charge some high-level politicians. His successor, Tariq Bitar, has faced this relentless wave of opposition, with powerful groups filing legal challenges against him just to freeze the investigation. And, to this day, not a single high-level official has been held accountable.
Years later, the scars on Beirut, both the physical ones on the buildings and the psychological ones on its people, they're still there. But, in the absence of any official justice, the people of the city have created their own powerful memorials to make sure that what happened and why it happened is never, ever forgotten.
Where Hangar 12 used to be, there's now this 8-foot statue, and it's made from the twisted steel and shattered glass from the homes that were destroyed in the explosion. It is a symbol of resilience that is literally built from the rubble of the tragedy itself.
The statue is in the shape of a woman, a figure of strength and of mourning, and she's holding a sword high. It stands as a tribute to the 218 people who were killed, a permanent guardian of their memory, right at the epicenter of the blast. And right at the base of the statue, there's a clock. Its hands are frozen at 6:08 p.m., a constant, silent reminder of the exact moment when years of negligence finally exploded into a single, irreversible instant of pure devastation.
And that really brings us to our final unsettling question. The Beirut explosion wasn't caused by one single person. It was caused by a long, slow failure of an entire system of bureaucracy and indifference at every single level. It leaves us with a really tough thought to wrestle with. When a system is so broken that everyone shares a piece of the blame, how can you ever really get justice? And does that failure to find accountability become the final, tragic chapter of the disaster itself?